It's your Wednesday daily delivery. I'm Michael Rand. Happy to be back for another day. Strange week with the holiday right in the middle of the week. Decided to take yesterday off. Had a good time with family. Hope everybody else did as well. But back today and the rest of the week, obviously, with a good show. Alexander Mattison, Vikings running back, ostensibly the starting running back now for the team after the release of Dalvin Cook, will join me here in just a few minutes to talk about the upcoming season, to talk about all the work he's doing this offseason with several different camps, 3 different locations. I talked to him just a few days ago, right at the end of last week. He was getting prepared to do a set of camps in San Bernardino in California, where he grew up. He's already done a 3-day camp here in Minnesota, and he's got another one coming up in Boise, where he went to college in just a couple weeks here. So a busy offseason for someone who figures to play a critical role for the Vikings, and I hope you enjoy the conversation I have with him, because I found him to be a very interesting and engaging person and player. So look forward to that here in just a few minutes with Alexander Mattison from the Vikings. Have a Bally Sports North and Twins point that I need to make at the end of the show, something maybe I didn't articulate quite well enough in a post I wrote a couple days ago, so I'll get to that in the end of the show. Some Twins thoughts here in a minute. First, though, what did I miss? This is truly a what did I miss, because with the holiday and no show yesterday, didn't get a chance to talk about the Anthony Edwards extension. Just 2 points I want to make on his contract. The fact that when you see the contract finally laid bare, you see it out there, you know what it was going to be. We knew what the terms were probably going to be approximately, because if it was a max deal, all these numbers are already figured out ahead of time. So there was no surprises in it. Nothing really changes about future projections, except when you do see the number, when you actually put it on paper, when it's no longer a projection, it makes next year's salary cap, not this coming season, 2024-25, it makes that salary cap, it makes that reality come into focus even more, because you look at it, you go to any of these salary cap tables, you see that now, already, even before they re-sign Jaden McDaniels, which we presume is going to be on a deal that averages at least $20 million a year. So let's give him a starting salary of about $20 million starting in the 2024-25 season. They've already now got, according to SpotTrack, according to that, they've got $146 million tied up in just 4 players, 3 centers and a wing: Karl-Anthony Towns, Rudy Gobert, Anthony Edwards, and Naz Reid. Now you sign Jaden McDaniels, that's going to add another probably $20 million. You're already at $166 million for 5 players, and you don't even have a point guard, you don't have a bench, you don't have anything else. You are way into the luxury tax. We've known for a long time that something has to give, especially if you know you want to have a point guard. Just makes the point clearer that that is not a championship core. Those are not the 4 players that are going to lead you to the promised land. I don't think that is a championship core. I think you do know in your heart of hearts that you're going to have to trade one of those players, and the most obvious candidate in there is Karl-Anthony Towns. And as I wrote the other day, as I've talked about many times, you need to do it now while his salary is much lower than it will be next season. His salary jumps from like $36 million up to $52 million. So that's $16 million more in cap space. If you trade him now, you only have to, quote unquote, only have to match that $36 million coming back. And you can get some expiring money in there if you want. You need to do this deal right now, Tim Connelly. You do not want to wait until next year when you have to take back a lot more salary and when everybody in the world knows that you are going to have to make that deal, and maybe after another year of proving that this combination of Towns and Gobert just does not work. Just look at it on paper. Look at it. It makes no sense to run this back this year. The Karl-Anthony Towns trade has to happen. Not has to happen. There's no like deadline, but if you're talking practical sense, if you're talking about future building, if you're talking about the way the roster needs to work in order to have the ability to bring in other players of high caliber to build around Anthony Edwards, this trade should happen this off season. I don't think it's a trade deadline deal. I think it's an offseason deal. You don't want to do this deal at the deadline. This is a trade. This is a trade that should happen sometime in the next month. Towns is eligible to be traded as of Friday. Make it happen, Tim Connelly. This is something that will only help the team, help the core. Give that new core, one extra year. Don't wait on this. Do not wait. Do it right now. Okay, rant over. Let's talk Twins for a few minutes here. They've gotten healthy against the Royals in terms of the offense. 2 good wins these last couple days. Still in first place now, although Cleveland playing better lately. They are tied in the loss column. They're just 1 game up on the Guardians overall. The Royals make everybody look better, right? They're terrible. They're one of the worst teams in baseball this season. I don't think we can say definitively that all their problems are cured just because they put up some big numbers against Kansas City these last 2 days. More to the point, more to the frustration with this year's team, in addition to the offensive inconsistency, is the continuation of all the injuries. The latest soft tissue injury, Royce Lewis, on the injured list for what looks like it's going to be about 6 weeks with an oblique problem. That's the same kind of thing that sidelined Caleb Thielbar this year. Those obliques are tough customers. That's a tough injury. And at some level, you don't have a lot of control over injuries. We get that. But at some level, man, seems like the Twins have a lot of injuries, doesn't it? Seems like this is a continued problem, even though they overhauled their training staff this year, handpicked a new guy to come in and revamp this training staff. Still having a lot of these same injury problems, still having not your full strength out there. That, to me, is the biggest disappointment so far this season, in addition to the inconsistency, as they still can't seem to find a way to be consistently healthy. I know Buxton has been around for most of this season, but they've had to do it by basically wrapping him in bubble wrap and not playing him in the outfield, which diminishes his impact and effectiveness. Correa is playing through plantar fasciitis. It's good for him that he's able to play through it, but that is a lingering issue. They've had so many other problems with injuries. I mean, a lot of these pitchers that they've brought in, Brock Stewart is hurt right now. The 2 starters that went down at the beginning of the year, Maeda, although he's back now and pitching well. And then, of course, Tyler Mahle out for the year. It's just a continuing, ongoing problem. It just would be nice if they could solve, to a degree, at least to a degree. Doesn't feel like it's gotten much better this season, and that is a big frustration, even as they take out their offensive frustration right now against the Royals.
MGM Wine and Spirits is the choice for savings, service, and a great selection of spirits, pre-mixed cocktails, wines, and of course, ice-cold beers and hard seltzers. With over 30 locations throughout the Twin Cities and beyond, there's an MGM near you. Head to MGMWineandSpirits.com to find a convenient location in your area. Get social. Follow MGM on Facebook and Instagram for all the latest news and trends. Make great moments with MGM Wine and Spirits, your locally owned and operated choice for over 50 years. Save time, save money. Shop MGM.
All right, I'm really happy to be joined right now by Vikings running back Alexander Mattison. While we talk right now, Alexander's out in San Bernardino, his hometown out in California. He's doing a 3-day football camp, but more than just that. So I want to ask you, Alexander, about that. And it's like you have a whole camp odyssey going on this summer. It's pretty cool. Tell me just a little bit about all the camps you're doing this summer, football-wise and otherwise.
Yeah, so with I Am Gifted, we are doing a 3-day overnight camp this weekend coming up at Cal State San Bernardino, actually starting today. But this summer, we already did our 3-day overnight camp in Minnesota, which was a huge success for those kids. We incorporate a lot with the camps. It's just not about teaching football, but about teaching life skills and emphasizing the importance of mental health. We incorporate a A3G requirement and NCAA clearinghouse education course. We incorporate the mental health seminar, the NFL player one-on-one Q&A with some former and current players. And then we have the NIL education piece that we're actually starting this year. That is our first year doing that. But, it's so new that these kids need to learn about, how they can use their name and likeness as they try and make it to the next level. And then we also have a social justice piece where we have an officer come by and give a presentation and do a Q&A as well. So we do a lot of things incorporating life skills and emphasizing mental health through I Am Gifted. And then the one camp that's still to come is in Boise, July 22nd.
Right.
That's one more that we're going to hit.
That's a lot, man. And it sounds like why, I mean, to me and to a lot of us, all of those things you mentioned are important, but sometimes when we think football camp, all we think is football, or which is important too. Why was it important for you to include all of those other components in these camps you're doing?
Well, it's important for me because I had a great mentor by the name of Greg Bell, who was a great running back in the league. And I started going to his camps. I think I was in 5th grade, 4th grade maybe. And he had this model. So he's my mentor now, taking me under his wing, kind of showing me the ropes and passing the torch of doing the 3-day overnight camp type of method, and understanding that it's not about what you do on the field, but what you can do in life and the person that you can be in life. And so learning that, at an early age, and just understanding, my parents didn't allow me to come home with less than a B. I couldn't go to practice if my homework wasn't done. There's all these components of my life that never pointed at the gridiron, never pointed at the field, but pointed at being successful in life. So I think that's a part of, why I have attained this level of success, and why I'm living out my dreams now, is that, the bigger picture wasn't just to make it to the NFL, but beyond that, the goals and setting myself up for success and an attainable life beyond what the field can provide.
Yeah, my colleague Chip Scoggins wrote a longer piece about you maybe a few years ago as you were kind of coming up with the Vikings. Some of that stuff was in it, straight A's and the emphasis on homework and not being able to practice if you didn't finish your homework, stuff like that. Your parents didn't always have the most money. It sounds like there's kind of some challenges along the way, but what did you learn from that upbringing, especially, in a place like San Bernardino, that there was some challenges there. It's a place that there are definitely some challenges within that city and within that structure.
Yeah, I think it taught me a lot about perseverance, taught me how to be resilient, and really when adversity strikes and when you face adversity, you got to get up and keep going. When you get knocked down in life, it's about how you respond to that. If you're going to get up or you're going to lay down. And so, seeing my parents navigate having 3 boys through, an impoverished and crime-ridden city, it's definitely one of those things that kind of helps motivate you to not only provide a better future for your family, for your future kids and all, but to also help out and get my family out of that situation. And so I think that was a big motivational factor of why I really wanted to make my dreams come true, is because I knew that there was something bigger at stake, something that that I really wanted to pursue for a bigger purpose than myself. And so I think that's a part of this upbringing, is that I think a lot of us in this city that have grown up in the city, we grow to want to live for more than just ourselves. There's a bigger purpose, because I understand that at any moment, or, growing up in this city, I understood at any moment, it could be taken away from me. So living for something that's bigger than myself and being selfless is something that I feel like I really have taken away from growing up.
That's a great message, and obviously part of what you preach in your life and what you preach through these camps, I'm sure, is some of those lessons as well. I think in that story I read too, and I think I've known this about you for a while too, but it wasn't just the homework component. Like, you were taking a lot of the advanced classes. You became fluent in Spanish because you were in a dual immersion school. Like, how much is that, like, I wouldn't say that like necessarily surprises people, but like, as I think there are some still stereotypes of NFL players where people might say, "Oh, wow, this is a person who's very well-rounded," and I'm sure that serves you well, just not just in life, but on the field too. Yeah,
definitely. And I think that, one of the biggest things for me, understanding, even when I got to this point, was that, it doesn't ever stop. We have to always fight a stigma when it comes to being a football player. There's a stigma when you're in high school. All the movies show that your stigma is that you're the jock with a Letterman jacket walking around bullying kids, and that's not the case for 90% of the student athletes out there. That we fail our classes or have someone do our classes for us. Then you get to college, there's all the stigma there. And then you get to the pros. There's so many stigmas that you have to continuously fight. So for me, I understand. I mean, I think it was a part of just, like I said, how I grew up, how my parents raised me. But at the same time, for myself, understanding where I had to separate myself, where I had to be better than the 90%. I had to set myself apart. So, God blessed me with, some pretty good brains, and I try to preserve them as much as I can while playing, but using it to the best of my ability in school was something that I took pride in. That's why I made sure I went back and got my degree after I left early. It's something that I know no one can take away from me. So yeah, I definitely think that it's been really good for me to use that in a positive light to fight stigmas against, what the average or normalized football player might be.
Like you said, you left Boise State early. You really had nothing left to prove there after some really big seasons. There, you got picked in the third round of the 2019 draft. And when you came out, I'm reading this quote, you said, "You can only play as long as your body lets you. And at this position, you can't assume it'll last forever." We're 4 years later. You've just signed an extension with the Vikings. Does that quote ring even more true now that you're 4 years into an NFL career and kind of feeling the wear and tear and kind of how the league even values running backs, which to me isn't really that fair all the time?
Yeah. I mean, it rings so true. I mean, I've been blessed to be in a position where, hey, I'm still here and I signed back for another 2, and hopefully I can, just continue to, I mean, my body feels great. So I'm aging well, which,
right.
Some people that's not the case, so I'm glad that that's the case for me. But that quote rings so true. I see all the time, just the backs in my 4 years that we've had that we brought in and replaced and brought in and replaced. And it's one of those leagues where it stands for not for long, the NFL, when you think about it, that the average of these position groups doesn't just come out of thin air. It's real. It's a real life average. And there's guys that are playing, Adrian Peterson, Frank Gore, that are playing 14, 16 years in the league. And, the average is still lower than it was when I came in the league. So it's pretty crazy to think about, like, the average is going down. And I'm still here, so it's a blessing. But yeah, that's one of those quotes where I don't even remember saying that, but
sure,
I must have had my head on straight and understood the picture of everything.
You just turned 25 a couple weeks ago. That's not even old by NFL standards, but you start to hear like running backs getting called, old by the time they're 28, 29 sometimes. And I think we saw the case of that with the guy who's been in the backfield with you for all 4 years you've been there, Dalvin Cook, and he just, got released a couple weeks ago, perhaps opening the door for a bigger role for you. But how do you think of the big picture of that? Dalvin leaving at this point, you perhaps having a bigger opportunity, and just kind of what 2023 might bring for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, like you said, the running backs get the short end of the stick all the time. I think we're very undervalued. But in that case with him, I think, with the business of things, the NFL, the way it's going with the CBA and all of the cap space and all that stuff, it just comes down to business sometimes. I think he's still one of the most elite backs in the league still to this day. I don't think he's aging very great. I don't think he's aging bad at all. So I think he's going to just continue to be the Pro Bowl, all-pro running back that he is going forward. But I think, for me, it's a great opportunity for me to step in the role and step in the limelight, the position that I've always dreamt of being in, and just really just all the work that I put in to this point, all the work that I followed in his footsteps, putting in, me and him side by side in that backfield, challenging each other every day. Prepared me for a moment like this where I can have the opportunity to seize what's in front of me.
When you think about just, this opportunity this year and kind of what you bring to the team. When you're at your best, how would you describe your running style, your playing style?
I live by 3 words. I guess you can say 4 if you put the and in there.
Okay.
But three words to describe my running style, and that's because of my running back coach, Lee Marks from Boise State.
Okay.
Fast and physical.
Downhill, fast and physical?
Yeah, that is what I've molded my game after going into college. I mean, there was backs like Jamal Charles, Adrian Peterson, Marshawn Lynch, who I watched growing up. And to describe how I run, how I put it all together is downhill, fast and physical, violent knee drive. And that's one of the things that I think kind of separates me a little bit in the way that I just try and play the game every single down.
Do you get the sense that Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, Kevin O'Connell, your position coaches, they appreciate that style and what you bring? I mean, obviously they wouldn't have brought you back if they didn't like a lot about you, but do they like that element of kind of your running game?
Yeah, like you said, I would hope so,
Right.
Definitely. But I definitely think so. It rings true and just, the feedback that I've gotten from them from last year and just how I want to even improve this year, but just always trying to finish forward, always trying to, after contact, finish yards forward after contact. The way that I play the game, the way that I run is definitely built for and molded for doing that type of dirty work and doing that type of grind. And so I take pride in that, and I think that they value that. So hopefully I can bring a lot of that to this team this year.
Alexander, enjoying this conversation. A couple more questions for you, and then I will let you go with these busy few days of your camp that you've got coming up as of when we're recording. If you think about last year was such a strange, I imagine fun in a lot of ways. You guys went 13-4. You're winning all these crazy close games. What was it like to live that season and kind of experience it as a player? Because we watched it, we covered it as media members or fans watched it and kind of, at edge of your seat, fourth quarter comebacks. What was it like to live that season?
Oh man, it was pretty crazy. It's one of those things where it's like, I don't know how we keep doing it, but we do. And that locker room, that the staff, the organization is just top tier. So when you go into a game trusting in one another, believing in one another the way that we did, anything is possible. And, we were able to showcase that time and time again last year. I think we have a lot of the great pieces that we need. And coming into year 2 of this system, this is going to be a new system for our defense, but which I think is going to be amazing for them. But year 2 for our offense, I think it's going to be one of those things where, we already now know where we need to improve, what we did good, what we can be better at. And so I think it's going to be one of those things that just kind of is a year for us to really prove that, we can make a run at this thing. And I mean, last year it felt like we could. The chips didn't fall our way, but hey, now we have another opportunity ahead of us to play another 17 games and try and get into the big dance at the end.
Now, I was going to say, that was kind of my last question, like looking ahead to this season, I don't imagine you guys are going to go 11-0 in one-score games again. That's possible, but you're a really smart guy. The law of averages probably means you're going to probably regress to the mean a little bit more. How do you sustain the winning while probably understanding that you can't keep winning exactly the way you won last year?
Yeah, I mean, we that's one thing that we know. We have to come out early and put our foot on people's necks and really try and just dominate these games. It's one of those things that a lot of times last year, we're playing from a point where, we might not start as fast, or we start fast and then we have a little bit of a low or whatever it might be. We have to just try and be as consistent as we can, coming out, starting fast, getting up on the scoreboard every time we're in the red zone, making sure that we try and finish each drive with points on the board. It's just things like that we have to just make sure that we're all on our P's and Q's and everybody's on the same page. And I think that right now it's looking good just through OTAs, just looking good as far as being on the same page. Everyone's looking good. And then defensive side of the ball looks like a whole new monster. So I'm pretty excited for this season.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are, and this is like the downtime for a lot of players, but you're spending it, giving back, doing all these camps. That's pretty cool. I admire you for that. So best of luck with the camp in San Bernardino, the one coming up in Boise in a few weeks, and we'll be sure to chat more down the road, Alexander. Take care, okay?
Thank you. I really appreciate you.
Hope you enjoyed that conversation with Alexander Mattison, Vikings running back. Big year for him coming up, like he and I talked about. I mean, they should have a lot of opportunity for him now that Dalvin Cook is no longer here. They've made a lot of overtures about how much they like Alexander Mattison in the past, his durability, his consistency. And, I think the bottom line with this team is Dalvin Cook will hit you a lot of home runs, a lot of big swings, a lot of big runs, if we might borrow a baseball metaphor to carry over to football. Too many times, though, Dalvin Cook getting stopped for negative yards or no gain. This offense is not set up to be 2nd and 10, 2nd and 11. A lot of teams in the NFL are not set up to be that way, but especially this one with Kirk Cousins not very mobile, with the offensive line still, I think, average at best, even with all the investment they've put into it. Alexander Mattison will get you into a lot more 2nd and 6, 2nd and 5, 2nd and 7 even. Those are much more manageable downs. Dalvin Cook will get you 60 yards, but he'll also get you 0 yards. He'll get you into those obvious passing situations where Kirk Cousins is in trouble. A lot of times those lead straight to those 3-and-outs or turnovers, sacks, things like that, put you behind the 8 ball. Let's see how consistent Mattison can be with those runs this season, getting them into better 2nd down, even 3rd down situations, getting them those tough yards this year. That's what I'm going to be watching for. I think that's what they want out of Alexander Mattison, that I think they know he is not going to be the same explosive runner. I think he's only got, just not very many runs of over 20 yards in his career. So that's not going to be his game, but they don't think they necessarily need that from him, at least not on a day in and day out basis. So watch for that this year. Watch for how that plays out, how many more times they feel like he is getting them the yards that are there versus getting stopped, for 0 or no gain, because I think that will really help their passing game, help their offensive line, things like that. So that's what Mattison brings to the table. Let's finish with the cooler. Like I said at the beginning, I feel like maybe I didn't articulate something clearly enough about my thoughts about Bally Sports North continuing to show Twins games for the rest of this season, and how that's a win for the Twins in the short term because it makes sure they don't lose upwards of $11 million this year on their TV contract. That would be the difference between what Bally owed them or what Diamond owed them and what Major League Baseball would cover if Major League Baseball took over operations of the game. I talked about how that's a win for the Twins, but a loss for fans, because had Major League Baseball taken over, they would have given fans a direct-to-consumer streaming option. And I quoted a fan who emailed saying he's a father of 3. He's 39 years old. He wants that direct-to-consumer option. I have a few people email me saying, poor guy, he doesn't want to pay the money to get the channels, things like that. A lot of us do. We shouldn't be left in the dark either. Yes, I agree with that. You should have both. This is not a either or. This is not a yeah, but this is an and proposition. If Major League Baseball comes in, there will be an and. You will still be able to get all these games the same way you traditionally get them through cable and through satellite. That is not going away. That is still where the vast majority of people are going to get it. That is still where the vast majority of the money is going to be made. But we are in 2023 right now. The option, the technology has existed for years now for you to be able to get the games directly for a price if they are available, if they are made available, if there is a way to do that. Right now, Bally Sports does not have that opportunity with Major League Baseball because of the contract with the Twins. What I'm saying is, if Major League Baseball takes over, or if by some, compromise, the Twins sign a new deal with Bally Sports for 2024 and beyond, a direct-to-consumer option has to be a part of it, and I think it will be a part of it. Those people who have cut the cord, who no longer have cable, those people should have access to the games too for a fee every month. Everybody else who gets it through cable and satellite, they should still have it too, and they will still have it too for a fee for part of your overall cable and satellite package. But this is what I'm saying. You got to have both. In this day and age, you got to have both. Everybody who's cut the cord has to have that option, and the people who haven't cut the cord need to have that option as well. That'll do it for today. Good stuff coming up the rest of the week. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. Back at it again tomorrow.